Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we continue with text pasta developers for July of 2023. Now this time we're doing the mechanics section, and I've decided to not add in a map because all of the map suggestions were just literally, okay, here's a satellite picture of a map and there was a battle here, so we should do it. And I've seen too many of those in the pasta developers. They take no effort and are generally pretty boring. Might as well just read a Wikipedia article. And no decals either, just because of the fact it's kind of the same thing. There's a ton of decals out there, and I'm sure that they'll be added. One of the suggestions I would personally have is to bring back the authentic decals, you know, the monthly or weekly decals, which have just kind of disappeared from the game since last year. Incredibly sad. Right, let's get into the picks. These are from not just myself, but some community members as well. Let's get into it. The first idea is pretty simple, increasing the max volume of the radar warning receiver, but also adding a volume slider to it and options so people can raise and lower it. Obviously, when it comes to the RWR, it's a pretty essential component of understanding threat levels, especially when dealing with high-tier air realistic or air arcade. And the fact that the audio can be a little bit all over the place at some points, it would be nice to have an independent slider which kind of covers it. This would be nice for pretty much every type of system in the game, especially with RWR, since it can be obnoxious to some people, but also at the same time, it can be something which people want more of. The next one is just adding a battle award for intercepting a nuclear bomb, as there's an award for successfully dropping a nuclear bomb in the game, which is Doomsday, and this action ends the game. Shooting down the nuclear bomb should be a top priority of the enemy. Therefore, it makes sense to reward the respective player who intercepted the bomber and prevented the match from ending. The player is already rewarded with getting an additional kill, but it would also be nice to have a little bit of an additional reward. Now, there are some ideas for the award. You could have broken arrow, which is a term used to describe an accident with a nuclear warhead, where there is a definite danger for the civilian population. You've got bent spear, which is a term used to describe an accident with a nuclear warhead, where there is no danger for the civilian population. And then also empty quiver, which is used to describe the seizure, theft, or loss of a nuclear warhead. So overall, one of those could obviously be added, and I think should be. The next idea is bringing back points scored for cooperative work, so points gained for proximity specifically. As of the update Groundbreaking, when RRB is played, you no longer gain points for being damaged on enemy aircraft, which kind of sucks. Despite of the change, it feels like a sudden lack of points does affect the SLNRP game that comes around. So hopefully the idea would be to try and support players who play either a support playstyle or a defensive playstyle. The individual with the article is a Japanese aircraft main, which means that a lot of his kind of tactics will rely on defensive flying, making people overshoot, and then turning on them and annihilating them. So if you slightly get this wrong, or if your matchup against certain planes is just wrong, what ends up happening is you will just get clapped. That kind of sucks in the grand scheme of things. So the idea would be to bring back the proximity score to be able to value these types of players. The next suggestion is add in-game voice chat to sim battles, since communication actually matters in sim, as by design, many of the systems that are present in RB and Arcade are, well, not present there. Currently, sim players have a sort of agreed-upon system of menu voice lines that ping the map in order to communicate, which is pretty limited, but hopefully will be expanded. The voice chat would only be in sim battles, which would be able to deal with a lot of the issues that may happen with people just screeching and doing all of that. But the main thing would be just to try and get people to communicate a bit more, at least realistically. One of the things I suppose people could do is squad up and do this, but obviously it's not as good. The next idea is to add a discarding Sabot effect to ammunition that has it. Basically, if you hover over a APDS shell in in the hangar, you'll see a little animation of what happens with it. And if you have a look, it actually removes part of it, obviously the discarding Sabot part, and is kind of drops it after it moves out of the barrel. So the idea would be to add this graphical effect to the game when firing a discarding Sabot shell, that it will be truly displayed leaving the barrel and scattered around the battlefield. It would introduce a more realistic concept for APFS-DS, APDS, and other DS ammunitions, and obviously for game's sake and performance, it would be start to give it an existence time of about 10 to 30 seconds, and add an option to disable the effect in the graphics settings if people dislike it or experience FPS loss. Very similar to how you have the shell ejection, just a little addition to the game, which would be really nice. There's also an idea for a 2-stage afterburner. As it currently stands, there are several jets in-game that have functional 2-stage afterburners, such as the F-14 and the Tornado. But to enter the first stage afterburner is more of a chore than it is usually worth, and this is mostly due to the lack of functionality within both the controls and within the interface itself. To enter the first stage of reheat, you need to very gently advance the throttle past 100 and just into WEP. If you go too far, you'll enter the second stage heat. Currently, the only way of truly knowing if you're in first stage reheat is by monitoring fuel usage. This stage provides less thrust, but also consumes far less fuel, allowing for a compromise when traveling greater distances. So the suggestion is first, update the UI to better display the two stages, such as WEP 1 and WEP 2. Secondly, modify the gap between each mode, increasing the difference between 100% WEP 1 and between WEP 1 and WEP 2. Thirdly, add options to customize the dead zone between each stage. Personally, also like an increase in the gap between 100 and WEP. Currently, it's like going from 100 to 101% needed to enter WEP 1, and then only 103%ish to enter WEP 2. Being able to customize this margin to have whatever you'd like would be great, especially for those using a HOTAS. This way, you could have 100 to 110% be non-WEP and 110+% be WEP, giving a far larger range to set a throttle before changing modes. Rerunning old events, or a way to obtain old event vehicles, is something that has been put forward. Over the past decade, War Thunder has run numerous events and is now about to start its 12th Battle Pass. This was actually written on the 28th of July. A majority of these events are decorations, profile pictures, wallpapers, and more importantly, vehicles, of which there is around 177 various planes, tanks, and ships that have been added through events and Battle Passes. Going off of SteamDB alone, all referenced player count will be there, based off of Steam numbers, as they're easily accessible and well documented. The game has had a pretty steady player base since its release up until 2020, of constantly around 15 to 28 players, with a peak of 35. In 2020 to 22, the game grew nearly 50%, with now around 30 to 40 players, and from 2022 to current day, the amount of players has nearly tripled what it was between 2014 and 2020, with 50 to 70 and 113,000 players at its all-time peak just a few months ago. With the player base expanding so much within the past few years alone, so many players missed past events and a majority of the rewards available. With the addition of the Gaijin market, it helped players to be able to buy the items that they wanted but missed. However, as time goes on, the amount of these vehicles left on the market has dwindled, and caused the price players are selling them for to skyrocket dramatically to where they are multiple times the cost of a brand new top tier premium. And people just do not want to spend hundreds of dollars on any vehicle, let alone a low tier counterpart to a tech tree vehicle. I don't feel all these unique, interesting or fun vehicles should be left to the few remaining players that still play after all these years, or left to never be purchased on the marketplace. A vast majority of other online games have similar events and rewards, but rerun these events every so often, or have the rewards of these events available in other means. War Thunder does have them in loot boxes, but these vehicles shouldn't have to be obtained by gambling money away for a minuscule amount of chance of getting a premium vehicle, let alone the event one you actually want. or pay an equal amount to just outright but the few remaining ones left on the market. Some of the vehicles aren't even on the market either, so they're just outright unobtainable, such as the Yak 3T, Tandem Mai, Lorraine 155, MLE 5, and also a bunch of the Battle Pass vehicles, by the way. The easiest solution to this would just rerun the events, which would be great in of itself, and I think they should, but I also think that they could add them to the Warbond store or something similar. At the moment, the Warbond store is alright, but I think expanding the amount of Warbonds and adding another tier to the store for the higher BR vehicles to add some more variety and something that will excite people so that they are a bit more excited about the Battle Pass and want to purchase it and grind it out. There are probably other ways of implementing such a system, but it would be great if either of the events were reran, or there was a way to obtain them again without paying hundreds of dollars either on the market or in loot boxes. Also, unique rewards for community contributors. Currently, there are a few programs where active community contributors can get rewards for their work, e.g. active Wikipedia editors, forum moderators, active bug reports, etc., in the form of regular in-game bonuses such as titles and some GE. It's a really cool thing that Gaijin is doing, but what if the rewards are more unique? What if instead of GE, each type of contributor had their own reward in the form of a unique vehicle that is only able to whoever has managed to become a contributor for each of the different types, so a different vehicle to the technical moderators than the forum moderators. It could be a really unique and fun way to reward players that are active and helpful in the community, with something unique that has no financial value, rather the time spent helping other members of the community. These vehicles could be obscure World War II prototypes in the middle BRs that would not really fit into Tech Tree or premiums and wouldn't affect the matchmaker in a significant way due to how few of them are available. Oh, God. But yeah, so that's an idea. Not a great one, but it's an idea. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R, and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.